In 2018, a Montreal-based company called Compulsion Games fully released We Happy Few after a couple of years in early access. The game was praised for its aesthetic and narrative. Just a couple of months before release, the studio was acquired by Microsoft and integrated into what's now Xbox Game Studios. After a few add-ons for We Happy Few were released, the studio, after 7 years, would release their newest game, South of Midnight. The game was revealed in 2023 at the Xbox Games Showcase. Afterwards, it would be embroiled in a series of controversies. The controversy begins with the hired community manager, Katie Robinson. She was described as blunt and fearless. Well, that sounds all fine. What's the big deal? Oh no.
Can't do it. I can't take this shit anymore, man.
Compulsion Games, being a Montreal-based company who have primarily white staff members and are writing a game set in the Bayou in the American South, it makes sense to bring in people knowledgeable of the area and the culture they're in to supervise. Ubisoft could definitely have done with a consultant for Japanese culture. Oh wait. Oh no! For this reason, Compulsion, or maybe Microsoft, decided on the inclusion of controversial consultancy firm Sweet Baby Inc. This had some people nervous for the game's fate, and others rooting for its demise. Fortunately, the game's writing is fine.
I need a shower so bad. I am covered in doo-doo water.
There was doo-doo feces thrown all over the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and it stunk so bad.
It looks like they probably weren't on the main writing team, saving us from a disaster like Kill the Justice League or Unknown 9. Remember that? I don't. This, coupled with some content creators such as Asmongold and others being blocked by the company's Twitter, seemingly despite having never interacted, has created clear lines of who supports who and who is against this game. You play as Hazel Flood, a teenager who lives in a place called Prospero. No, not that one. A town called Prospero in Louisiana. Our story starts with Hazel packing things away to go to a shelter as a hurricane is about to hit their town. Her mother Lacey is late coming home, and after returning, the two begin to argue. After checking on her neighbours, Hazel discovers that her home, with her mother still inside, has been swept away in the flood. Ha! See what they did there? Hazel then travels to her estranged grandmother's estate, her grandmother on her late father's side of the family, in order to get her help. Throughout this, Hazel sees strange strands in the air, and after telling her grandmother this, she gets locked away in the mansion. After escaping, Hazel discovers that she is a weaver, a person who can interact with the strands of our reality, and can use these abilities to mend the corrupted brambled growths called stigma. The aesthetics of this game are very unique, and the animation style is very reminiscent of famous claymation work such as Wallace and Gromit, A Nightmare Before Christmas, and the PJs. The game's art transitions from a sort of grungy modern one to a more fantastical, cleaner one as it goes on. It's my opinion though that Hazel looks a lot better in this new outfit, and I personally think it should have been the default. You could have set this game several decades earlier to make it fit if you wanted. Oh, wait, never mind.
Oh, hell no, man.
For the gameplay, the combat is not great. It's pretty clunky. The lock-on is fairly unresponsive, and at times it makes parts of the game a bit of a chore. Your moveset consists of a 5-hit combo, an aerial slam attack, 4 spells mapped to the left and right bumpers and triggers, B to dodge, and to hold X to charge a wide attack. A perfect dodge gives you a Strand Blast, which deal damage. Your spells can be later upgraded to deal Strand Blasts. The Y button is relegated to unraveling enemies. Once enemies have run out of health, unraveling them finishes them off. If you take too long, they get back up again. There's no other function for this button outside of that in combat, with the exception of holding down for a charge attack, which is kind of like the character V from Devil May Cry 5, who could finish off enemies in a similar way. There are only 6 enemy types in the game. The Ravager, typical close combat enemies, Lava, who explode on proximity, Hurlers are ranged enemies, Slugs can create lava, Brutes are the heavy hitters, and Overseers protect other enemies. There's 4 bosses throughout the game, and they're plagued mostly by platforming segments in between the phases that feel like they just pad out the fight. One of the boss fights is just 4 waves of enemies with platforming in between that feels like they tacked on towards the end of development. This company kind of reminds me of Ninja Theory, who had 2 previous titles praised for their aesthetics and narrative, but were found wanting for their gameplay, and were actually both acquired by Microsoft at the same time. Then their 3rd title came along, and any previous merit for their storytelling had pretty much gone. Luckily, Compulsion Games didn't drop the ball on this as hard as Ninja Theory did. There's no sniper rifle abortions in this game, or whatever the hell this is. The game very much seems like a game from the early to mid 2010s. It particularly reminds me of DMC Devil May Cry in a lot of ways. The grapple platforming, the floating buildings, the dash boost, the whip to pull enemies in combat. The main character lives in a trailer. Even one of the boss fights is very reminiscent of one of the ones from DMC, with the layout of the arena and the grappling between platforms. Oh wait, you get swallowed and finish it off from the inside? Oh, never mind, it's DMC 3. You can also explore to some degree the linear levels to find floofs that are used to buy skills, like red orbs, and find green filaments, which if you find 3 of them extend your health bar, like the blue orbs do. The game is shorter, but has a lot more focused vision than We Happy Few, as it seems to have lacked the chaotic development that We Happy Few had. The game is divided into chapters of linear levels rather than the semi-open world approach from before, that really just had you run from point A to point B to view the next cutscene. To get back on the game's controversy, I want to talk about how outside influences can frame your critique of a product. DMC Devil May Cry is relevant to this, as when that game was announced in Tokyo Game Show 2010, many fans of the series, me included, hated it from the very beginning. I would be lying if I said this didn't affect my opinion on the finished product. Right now, I think Sweet Baby has an effect like this on this game for a lot of people, as the game itself is just okay. Also, the game's story ends very abruptly. It just kind of ends.